You have two types of general data. You have consumer behavior data, what was done, and then consumer opinion data, what they think. Right? You have social media listening data from multiple suppliers out there. So both at the aggregate level, where they're providing insight, providing quantitative insights based on keywords, based on verticals, all the way down to the individuals. If you have records of someone's consumer behavior spending at point of sale, spending using their phone, on their browser, and you want to marry that with what they did social media wise, we have that as well. Underserved markets are not well served by the current legacy options. We're talking categorical, geographical, emerging markets that don't have the volume of data yet to make it worthwhile for, say, your Nielsen IQ or your live brands, right? And so there was no reason why tech combined with a safe transaction workflow, really born out of empathy from what would I consider a safe way to get data. What kind of checks would I need? What kind of QA would I need? X is profiting, TikTok is profiting from being a platform of, say, free speech, free expression, but they're not giving it away. So there's always that conflict. It's the list of ingredients. You can't take, here's my analogy is, you can't take grade C apples. I don't care if you make apple pie, apple fritter, apple muffins, whatever. You cannot make any of those things, however you dice it, bake it, cut it, whatever, the same quality as good.
All right, welcome to the Honeypot Podcast, where we dive deep into the limitless possibilities of social intelligence, data, and technology. Today, I'm excited to introduce Clint Taylor, a visionary entrepreneur, founder and CEO of Datality, with a track record as a two-time inventor and a global speaker. Clinton's leading the charge in making research data accessible to millions. His expertise in areas like blockchain, AI, corporate strategy has helped shape innovative solutions across industries. So let's explore his fascinating journey and learn how he's transforming tech and the data landscape. Clint, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Thanks so much. I'm doing all right. It's always great talking to you, and I'm looking forward to digging in here as well, just like all the other times.
Clint, let's give some people some behind the scenes information on how we met. We actually connected at IIEX, which was the Insights Exchange. What does IIEX stand for?
Insights Innovation Exchange.
Yeah. Insights and Innovation Exchange, but basically it was just a conference full of folks like us that were hungry for data and want to learn the latest and greatest in data. And obviously, we were connecting in an area where we were both supposed to be meeting with other people, and they stood us up.
That's right.
Let's talk about making the most of those situations, right? I saw Clint. We had a conversation. He's an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. We started talking. He started talking data. Antennas went off like, hey, maybe we were actually supposed to meet. So I appreciate you having patience and sticking over in that area of the event, Clint. Really enjoyed our conversation. Immediately seen a need for us to become buddies. But thank you so much for your patience with me during that time, because who are you meeting with? It was kind of bizarre.
Oh shoot, no patience required. Yeah, we got the hangover slot.
Right.
It was 8 a.m. day 2 of a conference,
Yeah.
and I'm looking at that. I'm like, I got the hangover slot. All right, no one's going to be there, and that was true. But I think we struck a chord right there because you and I were there, and we're ready to hustle, right?
Exactly.
And so that's synergy right there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I won't say that I know everything about being an entrepreneur. I'm always trying to learn, but I will say that success leaves clues. And when you kind of have someone marching in that same direction, you kind of feel it. And I felt it, man. And I really appreciate the conversation that we had, because we talked about data. You were explaining to me your company and your vision for your company. So first question for the day. You founded Datality. It's a marketplace making research data accessible for millions. Can you share what inspired you to create this platform and the challenges you faced while developing a platform like this?
Yeah, challenges continue to be many. If it was easy, nobody would be doing it. Everybody I talk to, even though the challenges are plentiful, everybody nods their heads and say, "Yeah, you're doing the right thing. You're going the right way." And I say, "Okay, so it's supposed to be this difficult? Cool. As long as I'm not making it more so unnecessarily." It really was born from my 10 years as CTO when I started the market research, starting in 2013. Co-invented implicit research technology way back in 2013, 2014, which is really early for that kind of technology. And we were successful. Worked with some great people all around, creative, scientists, you name it. And so over the lifetime of that platform and others that we developed during my tenure as CTO, I was sitting on a lot of data points. I don't want to say how many, but we're a smaller size 25 person company sitting on a lot of data points that we owned that could be valuable, and we used quite a bit, but we had no way to externally monetize them. And so I started asking around, who else has this problem? Who else is sitting on this latent asset? And I got a lot of head nods saying, yeah. And this is a need in the industry. And so I took it upon myself to create it. I did what I do best. I create enterprise tech stacks. And so I led with the product and built it out, and then have been sharpening it over time, product market fit, identifying, okay, this is a general need. Where are the acute needs? And let's figure that out using what we have as a base. So some people, they have a network of BDRs, account managers, marketing folks. I'm more of a tech person. I didn't have that. My skills were leading with the product. So we built it out, and we've assembled an amazing team. And we have Oscar Carlson, who was the ex-chief innovation officer at Cint, on board. Heather Hughes, who was VP of data solutions at Cint, and also worked for Omnicom as well. We have Dwight Griezmann, who was a former chief marketing officer of Forrester Research, on board. So we have an amazing team. But the challenges that we face are the same challenges that any two-sided marketplace faces. It's chicken and egg. It's that you're uniting supply with demand, and you need a critical mass of supply for the demand side to find what they need, and then vice versa. The supply side doesn't want to spend any time more than necessary until that demand is there. So you're trying to create these two at the same time, but yet they're symbiotic. And so that represents the real challenge that we have faced. We have to go about this being very surgical, and it's like sometimes we're trying to thread a needle while riding a horse backwards and blindfolded, and just trying to hit. And so it's a lot of hustle.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get into the challenges definitely as we talk more about Datality and data itself. But we're doing all right so far.
Yeah, I think this next question will pull back some of that because I want to know from what's out there in the market what makes Datality different from other data marketplaces. Like, how do you ensure that the quality and the reliability of your data is there?
Yeah, nobody's uniting supply and demand of expert research data faster and more cost efficiently than what we have at Datality. Nobody's making it easier for research data suppliers and buyers to do business with each other with the combination of features that we have. A lot of other options out there. I call them options because you have two-sided marketplaces where we're bringing two sides together. You have one-sided marketplaces where they're labeling data and selling it and providing it. They're not the same dynamics, and they can't reach the scale that a two-sided marketplace can by inviting the entire world in under a safe transaction workflow. So what makes us different? It's instant access to anything on any product. You find a lot of opacity with other options out there. You need to sign up first. They want to demo you. They want to pitch you before they'll give you all the details. Not with us. There's no need for that, in my opinion. A lot of the legacy outlets, 25K to 50K pay to play. They won't pick up the phone. We have instant delivery of data, so you're not waiting for it to be collected. Instant payouts. You can connect your bank account in minutes for to get paid out when you're selling data. It's 100% do-it-yourself SaaS, and by implementing all that, we drop the barriers to engagement on both the supply and demand side, and that allows us to pursue a profit margin that the other business models who are providing data one or two-sided fashion can't do. They're bundling with analytics, they're bundling with data visualization, they're bundling it with white glove approach. And I'll talk about this a little later when we talk AI and macro trends. But there's not necessarily a need for that. There's a need for it for some folks out there, but there are plenty of people who can look at data, look at a title, look at tags, look at the structure of it, look at a price, be comfortable with the transaction workflow, and say, I can work this way. And that's what we're providing.
That's dope. Let's call an audible real quick, Clint. Let's talk about the specifically when it comes to social intelligence, understanding that that's going to deal with anything and everything: social media, digital, web traffic, any type of data that would help aid those type of workflows. What do you provide in that realm?
Yeah, we have social media listening data from multiple suppliers out there. So both at the aggregate level, where they're providing insight, providing quantitative insights based on keywords, based on verticals, all the way down to the individuals. So if you have records of someone's consumer behavior spending at point of sale, spending using their phone on their browser, and you want to marry that with what they did social media wise, we have that as well. And it really represents what our ICP has become. You have two types of general data. You have consumer behavior data, what was done, and then consumer opinion data, what they think, right? We're really landing on consumer behavior data, and it has to do with social media usage, has to do with SKU level purchases, merchant level purchases, and audience enrichment.
That's amazing. I love how you touched on that. As I continue to grow my career in social intelligence, I know that the power of these data sets come when you marry them with other data sets, because again, you're taking, like you said, those behaviors or those trends from those online data sets, and then you have the internal metrics, your sales metrics, all those other things. I believe that, or my hypothesis is that when you marry those together, that's when you find those insights and you can go deeper into what's next with the data. So I love that, Clint. But to round up this area, this series of questions, I want to ask, how are you helping empower businesses to conquer these giants and win in the competitive market with your data that you're providing?
Yeah, there's such a high cost to engage, like I mentioned before. So, with this 25K price tag, and that's not every outlet, but some of the major ones, 25K, or they won't pick up the phone. This is not me talking. These are interviews that we've done to get the product market fit on Datality. Immediately at 25K, over 2 million US businesses are priced out. They're not going to spend that much on market research data to inform their market research, to inform their marketing. And so they're met with demos, pitches. They require personal information first, or the market's fragmented. They find that sort of diamond in the rough that can provide them, that it takes a long time to find them. All of those are costs, right? And so cost and time, cost and effort, that converts to risk. And the risk that not just small, medium businesses, but many marketing departments can't afford to take. They can't afford the time, can't afford the cost. And then look at underserved markets. We talk about empowering businesses to conquer those giants and win in competitive markets. Underserved markets are not well served by the current legacy options. We're talking categorical, geographical, emerging markets that don't have the volume of data yet to make it worthwhile for, say, your Nielsen IQ or your live ramps, right? And so there was no reason why tech combined with a safe transaction workflow, really born out of empathy from what would I consider a safe way to get data? What kind of checks would I need? What kind of QA would I need? So that really drove our our escrow-based payment system. So there's no take the money and run situation. There's no take the data and run situation. It included, okay, if you're going to post something, we're going to motivate you to put a sample up there. People want to see the structure. They want to see the data types, right? They want to inspect it before committing. And we also, so that's on the buyer side, protecting them. But we also motivate sellers based on what we are seeing of the questions that buyers typically ask before they go and purchase data. We want to motivate sellers to pitch themselves and their products to front load with answers to those questions. And so those are links to a seller's website. This is who we are. This is how legit we are, right? Affiliations, like with MRS, with SMR, with ARF. So we're affiliated with organizations that adhere to a code of conduct. And because we adhere to that code of conduct, our data is that legitimate. So really, it's not just empowering by sheer quantity of data. It's implementing the right workflow so that the participants feel safe in uniting together and doing business together on that medium.
That's amazing. And again, like I said when we first met, I love the idea of a buyers and sellers market, especially in this space, because that access to data, especially, it's no surprise that the largest companies in the world have more data than they know what to do with, right? They have more budget to know what to do with. They know exactly how to buy, how they want to buy, but then those situations come up where they may need a little bit more or something, and you work perfectly for that. And then I think too, for the small to medium business is a great area as well. But let's going back into talking about enterprise and addressing data, the ethical data use is what I'm trying to say, and um, the I'm trying to put this in a way where it makes sense to the audience. So, like some of these data sources, some data sources could or couldn't be available, or like especially from social media platforms, they're starting to become more guarded around how they give out that data. So when it comes to working with um, enterprises, what steps do you take to make sure that the data is gained in an ethical way, that it's being it's not scraped, or from your sellers of those data points and things of that nature? How are you making sure that the data integrity and the ethical use of the data is there?
Yeah, the entire team has years, if not decades, in market research. So while we're a free market, we have free market dynamics, and we pass on the efficiencies of free market dynamics to the participants. We're able to QC sellers and data coming in, but more so, we have a system where Datality, the marketplace, the platform economics in there, provides the buyers with all the tools to know everything about the data they're purchasing and who they're purchasing it from. Proper, rich metadata, samples, terms of use, supplier affiliations like the MRS and SMR, like I mentioned, but also certifications such as ISO 20252, 27001, that serve as badges of quality. And so, if we were to QC everything, we would have the profit margins of a one-sided marketplace, and that would have to be passed on to the participants, and we don't want to do that. And so the key is to provide a workflow that gives participants all the ability to feel safe and comfortable.
I think the situation that we talked about was Anthropic and their situation that they were in. So can you elaborate on why, and let's kind of give some context and explain the situation, and then why it's a critical issue for the industry?
Yeah, I brought the Anthropic thing up to a few people lately, and it really comes down to everyone is using or modeling or leveraging some sort of AI now. If you're not, those are table stakes, right? But what's super important is, where is the source data, the training and testing data? Where did that come from? that was used to create the AI model that you're either leveraging or that you're creating. And so, for example, Anthropic recently getting sued by the state of California. You have OpenAI sued by the New York Times Corporation. This is just the beginning, and it's not going to be long before those are huge lawsuits because there's no case law out there yet. So it's not going to be long before case law starts to establish these norms where it's like, oh, Your Honor, this is exactly like New York Times versus OpenAI, and so you need to adhere to that. And so I think that as these legalities continue to evolve, that we need to be more and more careful in market research in doing our own research on the data that is fueling the AI that we're creating and the AI tools that we're using, so we mitigate the risk of being sued ourselves.
Right. And for your protection, that's why you offer a clear connection back to that provider, all those other things, or kind of reiterate those steps that you guys are taking to make sure that your data is ethically sourced.
Absolutely. We have a patented, transparent, but confidential ledger that is at the core of Datality. And so every product that is posted, that is transferred, that is purchased on Datality has an irrefutable fingerprint back to this ledger, but in no way reveals any of the nature of the actual data that was transacted. Mm-hmm. So if there is any activity that needs to be called out, where provenance and authenticity needs to be assured, then you can get back at it using that core layer of ours.
And that's amazing. And again, those potential risks could be lawsuits. Completely shutting down your API. There's so many things that could cause a lot of disruption. So you want to make sure that you're always staying on top of those things when it comes to your data, because again, as Clint mentioned, there's not a lot of case law for some of these things that are happening right now. And the more advanced that we get with the AI, the more and more things like this will start coming out. So make sure that that's something on top of your list when it comes to acquiring data and using it, especially if it's within one of your tools. Because if you have a data source that you're relying on that you're not supposed to have, that's going to make it really difficult to kind of get back to that insight if you don't have that data source anymore. But let's talk about the AI, right? It's reshaping our landscape of data and market research. How do you see AI influencing the way businesses utilize data in the next few years?
Yeah, we can't get through a conversation without AI. No, sir. This goes back to a philosophy of mine, is that as AI continues to evolve, humans, professionals, are going to be able to interpret and comprehend larger and larger swaths of data and more unstructured data, right? There will have to be at some point some regulations on this data, where it was sourced, how legit it is. And so where I see this going, how I see AI influencing the way that businesses utilize data, is data itself, the source data, is going to be the gold. The AI algorithms that use it will largely become a commodity. The algorithms, they can't get any better than the quality of the source data coming into them. Mm-hmm. It's the list of ingredients. You can't take. Here's my analogy: is you can't take grade C apples. I don't care if you make apple pie, apple fritter, apple muffins, whatever. You cannot make any of those things. However you dice it, bake it, cut it, whatever, the same quality as grade A apple. You can't do it. Mm-hmm. And so I don't care how many tricks you have. And so data will be that gold. And so for the next few years, I see the tools that AI is shaping and the way that we use them. They make good juniors, is what I say. A good junior analyst, a good junior programmer, a good junior copywriter. And what the difference between those of us who have experience and people, kids, I say kids, they're adults coming out of school, right, who don't have a decade or two of experience under their belts, is that we know what good output looks like. And that gives us an advantage because we're more capable of using an automated junior that AI can provide and look at that output and say, that looks like the right insight. That looks like the right code. I've done it myself. I've looked at code and said, I think it can be done better. And I'll ask OpenAI and it will say, you're right. This part can be done faster. And so, but it gets you a lot of the way there. So I see it being used as good juniors, and I see us, well, first, here's this. No one's going to create a GPT. No one watching this is going to create their own GPT unless they have, $10 billion sitting around and they're going to pay, I don't know, $500,000 a day on the electricity to run it. Right. And so for the near future, we're going to be leveraging what already exists out there from those who had the capital to make it. And we're going to be doing a lot of fine tuning. And we're going to fine tune based on all of our unique expertise. You're going to have one market research firm that's going to be really good in healthcare, one, say, in airlines, one in CPG, one in spirits, right? And if you have accumulated that knowledge and you can apply it and you can fine tune the AIs that exist out there, you can make it enough of your own to be a differentiator and have AI at your back as you become the differentiator.
How are you guys currently leveraging AI at Datality?
We have a custom GPT layer on top of Datality. That is our query vector. And so in doing that, we get from end users needing to know how to search for what data they need to answer a question, to us helping them answer that question, to us front loading them with the data that could answer that question. Because nobody's coming to Datality who is looking for data. Like you and I aren't going to hang out on a Friday night and say, let's go look at some data, right? People don't come to Datality for data. Right. They come for an answer. They come for a decision, right? And so the closer we can get them to that, using, again, the GPT that exists out there, which we didn't create, but we infused it with our own knowledge of what it takes to get from that question to the data. And so we have it sitting on top of our entire catalog, our entire metadata. So when someone asks, say, I'm a CMO, I want to break into the gaming market. We have the sophisticated prompt engineering behind the scenes, be able to leverage what already exists, infuse it with our expertise based on our catalog, and answer that question and front load them with products.
That's amazing. This is an interesting question and I want to be mindful of your clients and your relationship with your clients. So let's switch up the question a little bit because I've been reading it. And I wanted to see how I could position it. So tell us the most fascinating application of data that you provide and AI that you've heard of, if you can speak on it from a very high level without getting anyone involved. But what are some of those most fascinating applications of AI in the most obscure data set that you have within Datality? What are some of those outcomes and results that you've seen from your platform?
Yeah, I love this topic because it speaks toward the critical mass that we're building and the power of it. So AI helped one of our buyers with data sets that could be used for a large study that they were tasked with proposing. Mm-hmm. And the study was for a large furniture company. You know the name. I'm not going to say it, but you know the name. And in doing so, saying, hey, I am a researcher. I need to identify X, Y, and Z about the furniture market for the study. They got front loaded with products and got introduced to suppliers because we show the suppliers of those products, and it pointed them to the products that could answer these questions that they were asking, and that led to some back and forth with us. But at the end of the day, it wasn't so much an obscure product that they were led to. It was the combination of products that could help them answer address this very large task of theirs. And it ended up scoping about 100K worth of products from two suppliers spanning both consumer purchase data and consumer opinion data, both historical and future. And it produced about 50 something purchases over the course of the next 2 years. That's what was scoped. And so, we aim to facilitate that through Datality's commerce model. But that was an example of how, answering the question that the buyer had and presenting them with a battery of products that could, in combination, answer that question was huge for us and huge for them too.
You took it that step further because they were looking in one direction and walked away with 50 other different directions they can go. So am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah. And it was sort of telling them what they didn't know, which is you're probably not going to find one single source that's going to answer this for you. But by accumulating all of these suppliers under one brand, under one platform, and providing GPT searchability across the swath of them, the whole battery of them, that's where we get to a point where you're sourcing answers from the world's data, not from Nielsen's data, not from Forrester's data, Gartner's data. It's the world's data.
That's amazing. And a huge win for you. Shout out to you guys for kind of sticking in there because I know that probably was a long process. Or I just know how that is when you're out here trying to prove points to these giants. So shout out to you for that. Let's switch it up and I want to focus on you as a leader in this space. You as a two-time inventor to kind of get that perspective of how people think. How people like us think, I guess, around the spaces that we're in. How do you approach leadership and innovation in this fast-paced tech industry?
Yeah, it's funny. We mentioned the two-time inventor, once or twice so far, and when you look into that, it really teaches you that you can't just come up with something novel and patent it. It has to be valuable. It has to be good for the world. And so you really get into, this isn't just new, you get into identifying and communicating how it's helpful to people. And, if I were to, so I went on a bit of a tangent there, talking about, the inventor thing, which I love it. It's great for the career and it's very eye-opening, but an invention can sit there and not do anything. After that, it's up to you. You have to activate it. And so when you talk about leadership, it's all about pulling the right people together. My best accomplishments have been pulling teams together on a single mission and keeping that mission in focus for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. And it comes down for me, it's servant leadership. It's take the high road all the time, which is the long road, but it ends up being the longer road, more longevity than doing for yourself all the time. And I think that's how you attract the best people. You serve them. And so we're talking to several investors right now, several VCs who are interested in working with us. And with every investor, everyone you talk to, it depends on the stage that you're at. It depends on risk tolerance, time of day, maybe, right? It's not the best economy. But everybody I speak with says the team is outstanding. You really pulled together a great team here. You have the expertise in spades. So I always say that tech is easy. Well, for me it is. Tech is easy. People are hard. Like, you don't know what they're going to do. It really accentuates the soft skills. Whether working for you or working with the tech that you want to leverage, you don't know how they're going to end up, using these things to evolve them over time. But you have to some way, predicate what you're doing on the trajectory of the end user devices. But you can identify macro trends and you can make reasonably safe bets. And the difference between those who make the bets and succeed and fail is staying around. And so you have to incorporate optionality. Do you have the option to stick around? Do you have the option to leave this chunk by the roadside because it didn't end up coming to fruition? It's not the right move, and not sabotage the rest of what you have. It's knowing what can fail and staying around anyway. That's the secret. We've stayed around. There's a great quote, and I'll close with this. I'm yapping, but there's a great quote that is from Ed Milet, who's kind of like a motivational billionaire dude. But he says, your best ability is availability. So you have to be available. You have to be around. And so being reasonable, betting on things, keeping optionality in there, then having the grit to keep moving forward. That's how you stay available.
You spoke of just kind of balancing running this company and the demands of Datality. Um, but how do you continuously keep driving innovation in that space, right? There's always changes specifically, and I'm gonna talk about the area where I know for a fact there's changes like on the social side with API changes and access. How do you stay innovative in a space that's changing so much and we have so much uncertainty to how we'll be able to retrieve some of these data sources and how these things will be available? How do you stay ahead of it all?
You need to say no a lot. Yeah, you need to rush quick to a yes and quick to a no.
Yes.
And I mean, in any industry, you can't control the macro trends, right? I mean, even if you're Nvidia, right? I mean, it was like, I think they made $300 million in one day from their stock, and then they dropped $287 million in one day. So it doesn't matter who you are, but you need to pay sharp attention to those macro trends. So talk about the innovation. This harkens back to the first invention that I had, and it was looking at the macro trends of the end user devices that were going to be in the hands of respondents doing implicit research and looking at what was required of those devices. And my judgment, my prediction was that they're going to keep moving in the direction that we need them to move in order to spend time on this, to invent this, to bring it to market, and have it have longevity. And it did have longevity for like a ridiculous amount of data points. For 8-9 years, we didn't touch it. And so paying sharp attention to those macro trends, because you're going to have all these innovative ideas. A lot of them will amount to nothing in your line of work. They're going to fall by the wayside. So when I say you have to be willing to say no, you have to be willing to say no to yourself too. Say, nope, that was not right. Spent time, sunk cost, it's gone. So paying attention to when the trends start to make those previously now outlandish innovative ideas more relevant piece by piece. Then by being honest with yourself, you know what to keep, you know what to throw away. You get creative on how things are done to shift those macro trends in your favor. You start prototyping smartly, you put your MVP smartly. You be resourceful with the code that you write versus the code that you acquire and reuse. You're approaching build by partner situations in every component that you create, and you're doing it smartly based on not just what your gut says, but what the world is telling you. And then communications to those who you need on your side to deliver the innovations. Communication to end users. Are you listening to them? Are you being empathic? Are you giving what they need? Communication to business stakeholders. Are you making them comfortable so you get your budget to keep going, right? And whether it's your boss, whether it's the board, or whether it's investors, right? So it is about the comms in light of all the macro trends combined with your innovative ideas and being honest with yourself.
I love that. Anytime someone can start talking about trends without me having to make them start talking about them, I'm all for that. You know what I'm saying? I love it though, but I think you're 100% right. Looking at those macro trends and making small changes based off of what you see is a great strategy. I think I want to save these. I'll save these last three questions because obviously my community is around social intelligence. And there's a lot of questions around data and the access to data and, is it ethical, right? So let's kind of start there, right? The big elephant in the room, TikTok. What are your, and this is audible, what are some of your hypotheses on how we will have access to this data moving forward here in America?
My hypothesis, I'm gonna give you a call and ask you because that's your expertise. Yeah, I think this is where capitalism and the social good tend to conflict with each other, and they always will. But regarding trends that I see in social intelligence and data generally, we're gonna see that the data used in these AIs, because again, we can't not talk about AIs. We're gonna see the data that were used in these AIs. They weren't representative necessarily of the people and the things and the trends you want to include as part of your social intelligence insights and conclusions. I think that's what we're going to find. Like you look at how OpenAI was created. It's created largely based on social media data out there, right? So what about the introverts who are buyers, right? Who are no less culturally important, right? They're underrepresented. It's biased, and it's capitalistic. It is pushing people to behave in a way that doesn't necessarily benefit their happiness solely. It benefits the bottom line of the medium that they're on. And so X is profiting. TikTok is profiting from being a platform of, say, free speech, free expression, but they're not giving it away. So there's always that conflict. I don't have a good answer exactly where it's going. Data analytics, I'm on the board at the University of New Hampshire Data Science and Analytics Department for their course load. And everybody agrees that you need some business jobs. You need to know your landscape. That's not going to change. Analysis is going to continue to get faster with the help of AI. You'll still need to know the output for a while forward. You still need to know what that is supposed to look like when it comes out of that black box to be the most effective. It's like, don't take the 3-pointer and then just run down the court with your finger right in the air.
Right.
You might miss. And then I do see that focus on regulations and the legalities of it. I think we need to get on the regulations as soon as possible. They're coming. Now, until regulations get there, it's going to be informal. It's do your own research on who you use and what you use for data and products to deliver the intelligence and insights that you're profiting from, and that brands are making their decisions on. You don't want that to come back to you with a brand being sued because they use intelligence that was stolen because you provided to them in a tool that you're making money off, and it's just a chain effect. I'm not an attorney. I might be wrong about that, but it seems right. But you'll know that turning point because someone is going to get his butt sued to high heaven, and that will be the turning point between these informal regulations, these informal sort of checks and balances, and how we formalize. That's how humans learn. Someone's going to get their butt whooped.
And I remember in the early days of Nichefire, MVP days, and we had this pipe dream of, when we can get Twitter fire hose, it's only $5,000 a month, or it was super affordable. I think it was like $5,000, $10,000 a month, and that was like the goal for us to get to that. And Twitter changed how they, once Elon Musk took over and had to make Twitter profitable, quickly changed that, and it sent a shockwave through the industry, to say the least. And then Reddit followed behind that, and everyone else is following suit. So when it comes to companies like Nichefire, and not giving up too much of what we're talking about, but how can companies leverage data from platforms like Datality, and not just to understand, but to anticipate consumer behaviors and market shifts?
Yeah, this comes down to our North Star. We're on a mission to democratize access to data. And by doing so, democracy is at its core about letting anybody in, about letting anybody have a say without barriers, right? And so we're making it as easy as possible economically, and making it easy as possible technologically as well. That opens up innovation, less barriers to engage in data transactions. It means more players. It means less risk for them so that they can join, they can participate. They're not locked out anymore. And what we're betting on is going to mean more valuable data, more voluminous and valuable data that can be made accessible to the world. And so, opening up to the largest volume of global data, like like our mission is the way. It's open source in a way. It'll be the gold standard, but it also costs money to create this expert data. Otherwise, just go to Google.
Right.
And so, people still need to eat because they're smart and they spend a lot of time creating this expert data that we can use. So that's what we talk about. Let's say historical data to understand past behavior. When you talk about anticipating, there's only so much you can do with historical data. You get another COVID, and you can throw most of that away, like everybody did for 2.5, 3 years. But it starts with the data. That's your best shot. It's that data being the gold, like I said. And so we are on a mission to make it as accessible as possible. It's not a data supply problem out there. Guarantee you. We're finding swaths and swaths of data. It's an accessibility problem. And we're providing that accessibility layer.
I love that. I love the idea of leveraging data, obviously, to understand current behaviors, but you can look to niche fire to understand that predictability, the predictable side of it. And that's just a shameless plug of the platform. But this makes me think, with all the uncertainties and the regulations and the governance that we know will come, what role do you see blockchain and decentralized data technologies playing in this future of data analytics?
Yeah, Datality at its core, deep down, is a blockchain-based backbone. That's the patented authenticity. That's the patented transparency, but confidentiality and provenance. So some of the things still ring true even before this crypto winter happened, before the charlatans got called out, and rightly so. There were trillions of dollars in this cryptocurrency moving around the world, and it was moving around the world based on blockchain technology, and that's not nothing, right? So it's serious. Blockchain is serious. It's solid. It works. I believe the most efficient models that you'll hear on Yahoo or Binance are not the most popular. I think the most efficient models haven't marketed themselves as well as others. We built on Near Protocol, which is the most efficient model out there in terms of development and scalability. And so where we are right now with this quote Web3, decentralized data, blockchain, we're really, if you look, you're familiar with the Gartner hype cycle. So we reached the peak of inflated expectations. That was that was Tom Brady and Matt Damon on Super Bowl commercials for crypto. Yeah. That's what that was, right? FTX Stadium. That's what that was. And so now we're in the trough of disillusionment. Right? It goes innovation trigger, peak of inflated expectations, and then the nosedive, trough of disillusion. This is more for the viewers.
Yeah. I'm gonna have a pop up and show it.
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
And then the slope of enlightenment, right, coming out of that trough where everyone jumps off buildings, and then that plateau of productivity, right? And so we're in that trough of disillusionment. Crypto took a dump because of greed, and it took blockchain with it. And so now what we're looking at is, I think we're seeing the emergence of kind of boring blockchain companies out there, boring Web3 companies, which is exactly what we need. We need them with a purpose, not just with hype. And so it won't get any worse. The only question is, when you look at that slope of enlightenment, what's the trajectory? What's the rise and run of that slope? What's it going to look like? And it comes down to those macro trends. What is the world going to need of that decentralized layer based on how commerce is going to roll? Regulations on crypto is huge right now, are huge, to be grammatically correct, because everyone's screaming crypto. Hey, we're going to screw the banks. So you're going to go up against the most powerful currency in the world. You're going to say, you're going to give it the finger and live in this country and expect to get away with not paying taxes, right? It ain't going to happen. And so there's a lot of regulation. There's a lot of public sentiment that's going to inform regulation. There's a lot of macro trends that have to happen before we really know the future. I think there's going to be a level of it. It's just a matter of how do I say this? It has to reach a level of efficiency that can be adopted easily. That decentralized components of data analytics and research models can be adopted easily. And there's a natural conflict there. Centralized entities have money and power, and they have no internal motivation to bend to decentralization. Zero. It's only if the public compels them to. And if the public compels regulation that then compels the centralized entities, then you'll see something. I think we have several steps to go before we get to a world where we see anything close to mainstream decentralized models playing a big role in data analytics.
Yeah. I'd love to get your thoughts on that off stream, specifically because I'm not that versed in the blockchain like that. But my hypothesis is, with all the data regulation and the governance that's getting ready to come our way, I could almost see entities kind of doing like this with their data and putting it in the blockchain and saving, and protecting their data, because as we all, grew up, cash is king. Well, I think data is king right now, to the point where there's not so much. I heard of metrics this past weekend at a conference that I was attending, that we create enough data to fill the congressional library every single day.
Mm-hmm. It's a ridiculous amount.
There's going to be, I believe, there's going to be some, like you said, rush to decentralize when regulations, when those things happen, just because I do think that some companies could be sitting on, hundreds of thousands of terabytes at this point of just data that they can reuse, resell, use to identify unique behaviors, come up with different ideas, products, the whole thing. But Clint, this has been a very interesting conversation. I love, like I said, talking about data. It's the heartbeat of our company here. I'm really glad that you're able to come on to the show and discuss with us some of these areas and how it could be impacting social intelligence practitioners. Let's take this last, moment for you to have any final remarks, promotions, if you want to drive the viewers to any particular website. This is the moment to do that. So
I appreciate that.
Take it away. I appreciate you, Clint. Go ahead and do your final sign off.
Yeah, it's a privilege to be talking to you, as always, but especially here, you're taking your time to have me on camera here. And so, listen, Datality, it's a B2B marketplace for existing market research data. Look us up on LinkedIn. We're a straight B2B play. You're going to see everything that you need to know about us there. Contact me personally. We're still that small. I love getting in the middle of this, even though I shouldn't, but I love it. And I've been told I'm not that scary. So reach out anytime, anybody.
I can attest to that, Clint. You are not scary at all. You're one of the kindest, warmest human beings that I met this year. And I appreciate you taking time to do this with me. As I told you before, this is a new stage of my career and something that I'm really excited about. So thank you for being one of my first guests. But as always, I want everyone to like, subscribe, share. We're just trying to build up the awareness of the show, building up the awareness of the idea of social intelligence and using it outside of just those normal areas in marketing. But without kind of dragging this any much too longer, I want to go ahead and sign off, as this is another episode of the Honeypot Podcast. Clint, thank you so much for joining us for this episode. We'll be able to put your LinkedIn and all that information up, and also share the pictures of amazing team that you mentioned earlier in the episode. But until then, I want to just say peace out to everyone, and let's keep fighting that good fight.
Here we go. I love it. Thanks so much, man.
Awesome.
All right.
We're going to wrap that one.